I worked as a cleaner in the delivery room of a large civilian hospital. Every morning, before sunrise, I pushed my cart through sterile hallways while most of the city was still asleep. I mopped blood from the floor, replaced stained sheets, and sealed trash bags that carried the aftermath of birth. Pain, relief, joy, loss. No one really noticed me. Doctors spoke over my head, nurses thanked me without remembering my face. To them, I was just another woman in scrubs, disposable as the gloves I wore. But no one knew that I was collecting garbage and earning hundreds of thousands of dollars from it. Your hair would stand on end if you knew what doctors throw away during deliveries. Things soaked in blood and sealed in biohazard bags. Things people think are useless, disgusting even. Yet in another world, those same things were worth more than gold. My name is Emily Carter. I was 34 years old, widowed, and living alone in a quiet suburb outside St. Louis, Missouri. I drove an old sedan with a cracked windshield and packed my lunches in brown paper bags. No one would ever guess that I had more money in my accounts than some of the surgeons I cleaned up after. Placental tissue, umbilical cord blood, amniotic membranes. Hospitals discarded them by the pound, but biotech companies, completely legal, properly licensed, paid enormous sums for donated biological material used in burn treatment, regenerative medicine, and research that saved lives. I wasn't stealing. I had permissions, contracts, and approvals filed so deep in administration offices that no one ever questioned them. The truth was, I learned all of this the hard way. 5 years earlier, I had been a patient in this very hospital, pregnant, happy, hopeful. And then, everything went wrong. I lost my baby.
The doctors did everything they could, they said. But weeks later, while reading medical articles in a haze of grief, I discovered something that made my hands shake. A treatment existed, rare, expensive, and made from tissue that hospitals routinely threw away. Tissue like mine. That night, something inside me hardened. I went back to school quietly, took online courses, learned the system from the inside. When I returned to the hospital, it wasn't as a patient, but as a cleaner, invisible, and perfectly positioned. The delivery wing was loud during the day and eerily quiet at night. I preferred the night shifts. Fewer eyes, fewer questions. After every birth, I followed a strict routine. Anything marked for disposal went into red-labeled containers. I logged approved materials, scanned barcodes, and transferred sealed packages into temperature-controlled bins provided by an outside contractor. That contractor was my company. On paper, Carter Biomedical Logistics was a small intermediary handling legal transfers. In reality, it was me, one woman pushing a cart while quietly supplying labs across the country. Each approved delivery earned anywhere from $10,000 to $40,000. I never felt greedy. I told myself the money was just proof that the system was broken. Doctors saved lives in the delivery room, then casually discarded materials that could save dozens more. They didn't think about it. They didn't have to, but I did. Sometimes while cleaning a room, I would hear a baby cry and feel my chest tighten. Other times, I saw mothers who didn't get to hold their children at all. Those were the hardest nights. One evening, a young nurse named Rachel lingered as I cleaned. "You ever think about how strange this place is?" she asked quietly. "All the time," I said. She looked at the red bag in my hands. "Feels wrong throwing so much away."
I met her eyes and said nothing, because if I spoke, I might tell her the truth, that what she called trash had paid off my house, funded scholarships, and quietly supported families who would never know my name. I lived carefully. No luxury cars, no designer clothes. I donated anonymously. I avoided attention. But secrets have weight. And one night, as I wheeled my cart down the corridor, I noticed a man standing near the nurse's station, watching me. He wore a suit, no badge. And he smiled like someone who finally found what he was looking for. His name was Michael Reynolds, and he said he was from compliance, an audit. The word alone made my pulse spike. For weeks, he followed procedures, asked polite questions, reviewed logs. He was calm, too calm, the kind of man who didn't need to raise his voice to make people nervous. One night he stopped me as I exited a supply room. "You're very thorough, Emily," he said. "I try to be. Did you know," he continued, "that most people in this hospital have no idea where this material goes?" I held my breath. "I know it goes where it's needed," I replied. He studied me for a long moment. Then he nodded and walked away. Days passed. Then weeks. No suspension. No accusation. I thought I was safe. Until I was called into a conference room and found him waiting with another woman. Older, well-dressed, sharp eyes. She introduced herself as Dr. Laura Bennett, a pediatric researcher. "You saved my daughter," she said simply. I stared at her. "My child needed a graft," she continued. "The treatment came from materials sourced through your company. I spent years wondering who made that possible." My throat tightened. Michael smiled faintly. "Emily, this audit wasn't to shut you down. It was to find you."
They offered me something unimaginable. Not money. A position. They wanted me to run a national program, transparent, ethical, accessible, to educate hospitals, to make sure no mother ever lost a life because something priceless was thrown away. I accepted. Months later, as I walked out of the hospital for the last time, not as a cleaner, but as a partner, I paused in the hallway. I placed a small photo on the memorial board near the maternity ward. A baby girl. My daughter. The one I lost. The one whose tissue had saved 3 lives without anyone ever knowing. I whispered goodbye. And for the first time in years, I walked away not invisible, but finally seen.